are ready, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I'll go ahead and call this work session to order. It's the 2022 draft budget, and this is the second draft budget. So we've been holding work sessions. We had a first draft budget, and then now we're reviewing the second draft budget. Kind of my plan for tonight, if there's no objection from council, is we'll turn it over to administration and let them talk about maybe differences or things that are the same, some highlights. I'll open it up for the public to make comments, and then let administration respond, and then bring it back to us for comments and questions. And I think if there's a question for the city manager with the things that she's presenting, we can go ahead and ask her while she's doing that. Is that okay?
Sounds great.
All right, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I sent you the second draft budget, there's the general fund is in the positive, in the black, $52,387. I'm happy to report that we received our health insurance premium information, and it went down 3%. We had budgeted a 10% increase, so now there's a 13% decrease. So the decrease is $346,000. So the total now in the black, $398,000. 315 of motor pool was removed from the budget. That can be put back in. So the motor pool can get put back in, and then there would still be $80,000 available as well. So that's like the really good news, very exciting for us today. And in your packet, though, starts on page 51 is the cover sheet, but then 52 forward. I went through and I captured all. I'm getting an echo back from the hall. Captured all of the amendments made throughout the budget, including the enterprise funds. And so I captured all of them so that way you'd know everything that was changed, even the small roundups, rather than having $211, it's $225. So all of those have been captured. But a couple of things, and I would note that the healthcare premium not included in this document, obviously, but it's not captured here. So a couple things to note on the revenue side. I did increase the hotel motel room tax slightly, $25,000. We used a formula for that I cannot exactly recall what that formula was to warrant the increase. And then you'll see the admin expenses. Those are round-up figures. Reduce the electric admin expense, but you've already seen that in the electric budget. It's just captured here, along with the other expenses, just making the adjustments that were already made within their budgets. You've already seen them, but they're captured here. All of the other ones have also been captured, except for a new revenue line item has been created, and it's through the campground booking system. I have to look to see which page, but it's on Parks and Rec campgrounds. $50,000 has been put in. Because of the booking system, there is revenue generated from the booking system itself that's not attributed to reservations, attributed cancellation and other fees that are captured. So the new line item is there. Currently there's $65,000 approximately revenue this year through it. So $50,000 for next year has been budgeted. The others you've seen when the other budgets. So as I stated, I went through all of them and captured what we had talked about. One thing that we had talked about was increasing under, this is on page 53, increasing travel and subsistence, education and training in both HP and PACAM. So those have been increased. There was a slight, I did decrease the legal line item because going through, in council and clerk, and going through all of the legal expenses, most of them will be under the under the general, the contract amount, so it did decrease it a little bit, but left some because it should still be left. And also under city manager, we had talked about increasing the travel, education, promotion, and contingency. That has been increased. And then under information technology, again, I decreased legal under that because down to 500. I hope they would not have much more than that. And then the others are on the rest on that page, community development, finance, are also reflective of the roundups. Under legal, under finance, decreased by 1,000 because I think most of that will also be done through the contract, but I wanted to leave a little bit there. Police department, we'd already talked about this, and it had been taken out of since the first draft budget, and it's on page 55. Took out the police recruitment incentive, 18,000, and motor pool rent, but then again, should be able to put that back in through the decrease in the premiums.
So let's just recap. So
Okay.
we found out when city manager started is that there's actual 3% decrease with our health insurance. So we'll go through those numbers, but there's potential to put all the motor pool fund back in.
Yeah, so a 13% decrease overall for healthcare. So it's enough to put the motor pool back in. So, and then continue on page 55, under jail, there was a decrease because of eliminating the one jailer position that we talked about at the last budget meeting. And then animal control is also just the roundups. Under fire.
Under animal control, wasn't there, so we have enough money in there, which I'm sorry to be counting paper clips. We have enough money in there for the dog food needs.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I did not capture in the amendment under that, but it is in there.
Okay.
Under fire, the motor pool has been decreased, and also I decreased legal. And then the rest of it's attributed to roundups. SBAC, we had talked about insurance and the amount for insurance under, there are 3 points of the insurance, and we found out AML, it's all covered under AMLJIA. So I was able to reduce that down to what it had been previously. Building inspection, decreased advertising. I think because it is done through a different department.
Through fire.
Yeah. Through fire. And then the motor pool came out, hopefully putting that back in. Under streets, also motor pool came out, but plan to put that one back in. And operating supplies was decreased slightly. Something that doesn't talked about. Snow and ice, also motor pool. Going down to city shop, motor pool again. On page 57, city hall. Also motor pool, and then a slight decrease in the utilities. Parks and Rec admin also decreased the legal down to 500.
So going back to city hall buildings, there was a decrease.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just because of?
Oh, I'm sorry, buildings.
Yeah. Is that just because of planned work that doesn't need to happen, or?
Yes, I had actually taken out painting the building. That's what it ended up being.
So that's another
Possibility to put back in if we choose to. Thank you. Under Parks and Rec admin, legal was reduced to 500. Under Parks and Rec maintenance, contracted services was reduced. I'm trying to remember why that was reduced. Oh, it had to do with the cleaning. I couldn't get to that page, but it had to do with the cleaning of, this one would have been the warehouse. That was reduced for that one. Okay, great. And then the motor pool rent, which again, plan to put back in. Under Parks and Rec campground, also put in, reduce the motor pool rent, and plan to put that one back in. Cemetery is a roundup. Also Parks and Rec, sports and rec, roundup is the difference. Next, on to TYC and Rec Room, also motor pool. Library and museum reduced the legal to 500, but roundups from there. So the total general fund decrease was 323,542. If we put back in motor pool and general fund is approximately $315,000. So there'll still be a decrease, but not as much.
And then the crematorium?
That is columbarium. It is in
Oh,
the,
sorry.
I put it in the CIP.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry. Wrong word.
And that's the extent of the general fund amendments that were made.
Do
Did that
you
answer
want
your
us to
question?
look at those first, or do you want to go through any changes? Did the enterprise funds stay about the same?
They've stayed about the same. They will change with healthcare. Those adjustments will be made, but they stayed about the same. I did include, and as you'll notice on my packet, copied upside down. So the additional information that was started on 118, I tried to include everything that was, every question that was asked to address that and include the documentation that you had previously been either emailed or have seen, but I wanted to include it all in this packet so that you would have it in one document versus, you know, the back and forth and the laydowns that had been going on. I did do a comparison of the salaries, PERS, and healthcare. Now the healthcare part has changed to show, this was the general fund comparison of the salaries that we have spoken about. The non-personnel comparison is on page 119, and I think that was at a laydown at the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever there was a combination involving personnel, I included that sheet that shows what personnel was before and what it is now with the combination. That has been included as well. And that continues for a few pages here. And I did do an enterprise comparison as well, and those are also in here of personnel.
Great, super helpful.
Also, you'll notice on, I'm going to turn to one of them, say city council budget, when I noted on the 2020 column that there were CARES fund, and I noted that in red on the 2020 column, and then the overall breakdown is also included in the additional information and how each department was affected.
What page is that?
The overall breakdown is on page 128, but within each, whichever affected department also has it on their main page. For instance, council and clerk is on page 14, and there's in red how much was the CARES funding for 2020.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I believe I addressed all your questions that had come up along in the process, but of course, if you have any others and want more information, let us know, and then however you'd like to go about everything.
Well, let's start off and see if there's, is there any comments from the public? We'll start off with the public so that there's time. And then if there's any public members that want to raise their hand later, we can also do it that way. Okay? So, go ahead.
Stay here or go there or?
You're fine there.
Okay. I apologize, I was not able to come to all of the budget work sessions, so some of this may have already been answered. My concerns are primarily the lagoon and equipment that was indicated is needed through the report from R&M. And so I don't know if that's already been included. I know it would kind of be hard to get those numbers, but even if you just included an estimate would be great. And then the $70,000 for the upgrade to the animal shelter, I'm not sure if that got included. And then this is like probably not for this budget, but it's just something that really weighs heavy on me every time I have to drive down an alley. We really need to deal with the whole infrastructure issue of the alleys and the right-of-ways and the conditional use permits and all of that, so that power could get buried and so that the alleys could get paved. So that's probably more of a longer term thing, but I just wanted to get that on the radar as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first part of that question, Tony, I'll come back to you. Can we talk about the items that were identified in that R&M report, and if they are or not reflected in the budget, or how that might come about in the future?
There are some that are reflected, and I may need to ask the director about that, but I'm looking, it's very small print, and I apologize.
New sweater, I think it starts on page 103.
I'm looking at the capital project,
On
cap
the
CIP,
Okay.
under wastewater. And a few of those, I'm sorry, I'll have to change notes. I believe that a couple of them are in, the sludge removal is there, but the aeration is not in at this time because we did not have the cost, is that correct?
We don't have numbers on those
That's
yet.
what I
We've got some preliminaries that we're looking at, but right now, we just, as we go through those 7 items, there's a couple of them that are, the first 2 are testing in the summertime. Yes, those are included in our normal testing to go through our equipment. As far as adding some aeration, there's some different options of what to add. I would say those are probably gonna come back through as a resolution to pull money from the fund balance in the enterprise fund to fund those projects as we go, as we can get them. But we have a little more legwork to do on costs as we get there.
Thank you. It's a good start. And then alleys might be larger than this budget discussion. What was the second?
Animal shelter.
Animal shelter. The change order, that's just gonna go
That'll
through the
come.
change order process, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Tony?
Yeah, so, my only concern, I think, on the budget, going forward and just being a 1-year budget is just adding that position, the split position in parks and library. I always just am very cautious about PERS implications and all of those things in adding positions, and what the benefit of adding the position is over the cost of the position. So, I'm also concerned on how 2 departments would split 1 position. I maybe have missed that from the first meeting, but,
It wouldn't hurt to go over it again. So my understanding is that's a position we already have on the books and we're already paying the PERS ramification on?
Yes,
Is that
is
correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And then it really doesn't hurt to hear it again, but
Mhm.
what would that look like? In the wintertime, it would be heavy maintenance, janitorial.
And it'll also be heavy maintenance janitorial with the library. The ideal scenario is the full 50%, but it'll really go as needed. So we already know that in the summertime, there'll be more need with the campgrounds. So that person will work with campgrounds and cleaning and emptying trash and doing everything else over there. And then cleaning in the library. We eliminated the contracts, the cleaning contracts to pay for this.
Does that answer, go ahead.
So who cleans the building now?
Well, right now, our staff does clean the building.
But it was previously a contract.
Yes.
Right.
So there's no positions being added in this budget?
The salaries are being budgeted in this budget, but the position has already been created a while ago, but the position is being funded in this budget. We've already been paying PERS, we've had to do that. But, so the salaries and then the healthcare portion of it are being budgeted in this budget.
So is there any positions that are being added in this budget?
It was, I think it's just the fire department, part-time,
Just a summer laborer.
summer laborer, yes.
Which is
Which
a
is a
part-time
seasonal position?
so it's a
Yes.
part-time temporary.
3-4 months.
Right.
And it's not, so.
No PERS
I
and
think we
have
all
to-
have the same concern about PERS.
Right.
So it's part-time temporary, which takes it out of that PERS.
No healthcare, no benefits whatsoever.
Thank you.
Yeah, good questions. Are there any other comments from the public? Okay, you guys can ask questions later. Let's pull it back to the dais, because I think you're probably wanting to hear comments from us also.
So that way, the next time you see the budget will be for the first public hearing. So it'll be, again, won't be these spreadsheets, it'll be into the AccuFund spreadsheets, and then the letter of transmittal, the financial statements, those documents will be in that document as well for the first public hearing.
So just to warm things up here, I'm sure a question that the city manager sounds like she's moving towards is with that additional 398,000, so it's the 52 in the black and then the 346 that was found with the savings with the healthcare. I think it makes sense that we fully fund the motor pool contributions. Is there any objections to that? So I think that,
Great.
well, that was easy.
That's excellent.
Yeah, great work. And then I feel like that was one of the best decisions we've made in the last few years is changing our healthcare. So
We're, it's one of those meetings you want to have, but you just don't want to have because you're just afraid of what they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
So they had meant to send us the document ahead of our meeting, but we literally got it while we were logging into the meeting and waiting for someone because it was a Teams or a Zoom meeting. And so it comes up and I'm scrolling through, I'm like, that's a negative number, so it's like, oh my gosh. So, yeah, and it's actually a better deductible for the employees as well.
Oh, good. Better
So,
deductible.
better
Oh.
deductible,
Kind of a
better
win-win.
out of pocket. That does not happen very often, and I just want to recognize that.
Harbor Master Regis?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I was just asking the city manager so she can explain to the union reps that are here what the new out-of-pocket and stuff for the employees.
We did send the information to the union reps, and I actually don't know, oh, I do have that. Thank you for
Sorry.
asking. That's okay. It is a $500 deductible for a single, currently it's $1,000. It's $1,500 for a family, it's currently $2,000.
Wow.
Out of pocket, $4,500, $9,000 is current, it goes to $2,250 and $6,750. And then there's some other changes where co-pays went down $10 and such. There was also some changes within dental to the positive as well. So yeah, I'm very, very thrilled, and I would not hold my breath it would happen next time. So we'll enjoy this while we can, because you never know with healthcare.
Yeah, well, that's great. So next, comments, questions? Come on, we're here. Let's drill and let's get count paper clips. Go ahead.
Mayor, if I can just ask some dumb questions. On page 52, for example, line 4302, it says admin EXP. Does that mean admin expense?
Yes.
And why wouldn't admin expense be a revenue?
It's an admin expense on the enterprise side, so it's a revenue for the general fund for administrating it. It does say expense, but it's an expense on the enterprise funds.
Gotcha. So it's okay.
Go ahead, keep going.
Essentially, just changing whatever equation it is of the transfers out that we take for the electric fund and just lowering whatever it is that we're taking.
This
It's a
one
round
isn't,
up
this one
from-
isn't, it's a roundup from the actual expense, so this one isn't the transfer, it's at the actual, it's an expenditure on the, enterprise fund, so it's a revenue on the general fund side, so it's, paying for, general fund salaries, basically, like parts of my salary, Stephen's salary, and the others that are involved. It comes to the general fund from each enterprise fund. And the corresponding, I think I might be able to find it quickly, the corresponding expense, let's find it on one of these.
If I can just clarify, sorry, I feel like I'm trying to do my hair in the mirror for the first time. So for example, the 4304 on the admin expense electric, that we're increasing what we're giving to the general fund. Basically, we're taking extra from, or more from the electric.
I think it's decreasing.
You take the
Well,
last-
here it's decreased.
Here it's decreased because that really was my error in the way the math was computed, but it is something that's been done every year, and it's, was it 2.1% was to be the amount, and it's 3% from electric. And that one is on page 88, under 7307 is the corresponding expenditure. And I
So previously that was proposed at 1,269,000.
correct.
And now it's being proposed from the electric department to the general fund at 1 million.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have a follow-up? Is that?
I'm processing.
Okay, yeah, take your time. Thank you. Comments, questions?
I have one question that's probably, because I haven't been around this for a little while. We funded all of the vacant positions.
Correct.
Have we looked at any of those vacant positions that we actually don't need?
We did, that's the jail one, the jailer, that is one that has been, we don't need. And
How many
I
vacant
would say we,
positions do we have?
I just got
Do
it,
we know?
overall vacant positions, boy. Full-time, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. I don't know that off the top of my head. I do wanna clarify it, the jailer position we do need, but we chose to leave unfunded.
Right.
For budget purposes and because of the jail and the expense of the jail, and we're not leaving, receiving the revenue. Did you have a number for this? About seven, probably full-timers?
Yeah, not very many vacancies.
You're right, not, probably about seven, but I'll get you the actual number.
Well, that's okay, because my thought was just, it's kind of like when you go into your closet and there's something there that you haven't pulled out for a year, do you really need it?
Yeah.
I didn't know if we had any positions that fell into that category that we could actually just live without.
So the oldest T-shirts in the closet are patrol positions in the police department that we know for certain that we need to fill.
Yeah, we
Other
don't
than
wanna
that,
throw those out.
We don't have a lot of stale clothing in the closet.
And those
so to
are
speak.
filled, all of them, for the first time in years, all of those are filled. All of the T-shirts are filled. And so that's, and previously they weren't filled, and so they were underfunded. Sam corrected me that underfunding is the correct term rather than unfunded. There's a few that finance director, deputy city clerk, I can't think of the others off the top of my head. These guys probably can within their departments. But I'll get you the actual number and the ones that are not filled at this time that we are keeping in the budget.
Go ahead.
The danger of just wiping them off the books is the PERS liability.
We still
that
have to
maybe,
pay
Sure.
for
if you understand, okay.
Yeah.
Did you have-
No, that was just an explanation.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna go on off of, Councilmember Calhoun's question. You could underfund a position for a year, correct? And just pay the PERS on it.
Right.
But we don't have any positions in this budget that we're doing that with.
Just the jailer position,
And that's
just
it.
that one.
Right, right,
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Any final comments for the group? Go ahead.
Is there any way to know what is in reserves for sewer?
Not off the top of my head, but I can get it for you.
Oh, Tony, go ahead.
Page 84 on the electric revenue and expenditures, says projected revenue over expenses after bond payment is $201,595. Does that just go back to the general fund? Or that goes into?
That goes into the electric enterprise
fund. Okay.
Madam Mayor, go ahead. To administration, did you guys have a formula of how you, used your anticipated increase of fuel and utilities over the next year?
A formula to arrive there, to get to the new number.
Like, did you estimate that it was gonna be 5% higher than this year, or 10%? Is there a percentage?
No, I don't think there was a clear percentage, no. Just an increase. I don't think we actually did, break down our percentages.
So I know we're still working on, the water wastewater tariff updates. But we've talked about this and I just wanted to talk about it here. So with the, electric, since I know we're still working on the water sewer. So with the electric, let's talk about electric rates and what people will see for rates this upcoming year. What does that change when you're coming up with those revenues? What rates were used for that?
There was a lot of discussion on that.
We are in touch with our firm, our contractor in Anchorage, and we are actually working with them on about 3 different scenarios, looking at rates at this point.
For this budget, though, were you asking specifically about this budget or the?
Well, I'll ask for this budget, and then if there's it expand, then that would be great too.
Okay. Well, for this budget, the only thing that we're really going to see is the additional cost in the COPA, and that's the pass-through from 2 gas.
And then your further rate discussions have to do with some of the bonding once that comes in place.
Correct. What we're looking at is the revenue bond. We expect in year 1 possibly just the interest to kick in. That's saying 195,000.
Yes.
Yeah. And that may not even get charged in the first year. It may roll into 2023. So what we will do is look at rates at the end of this year, coming year, and see where we are. And then at that point, we'll make a determination kind of on our strategy moving forward. Right now in our initial discussions, I think we're still in a position where we will look 2 or 3 years out before we even look at a rate study.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, or concerns, or proposals, or, so did you have some ideas what you were maybe gonna do with that $80,000, or?
I really, fully fund, the 80,000.
Or the balance,
What's the 80,000? So that's the 52 in the black, then the insurance of 345, and then it comes up to 398,000 that we weren't expecting over. And then 315 is back to the motor pool, so that gives us about 80,000.
Quite honestly, I didn't have a firm idea. One thought that I had is going to the CIP list to the CIP list and looking at, because this money would affect the general fund, looking at the general fund CIP list, and maybe going there to fund something from there. But I didn't have a firm idea. That's really something I wanted discussed with you guys and your thoughts on that. The general fund CIP is on page 116.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
To administration, I had a citizen reach out to me, and this may have been covered before I got here, but is the feasibility study still fully funded?
Yes, it is. It's 100,000 and it is in community development.
And the reason why it looks like it's not is because it has an asterisk about 55,000 with the GIS, but the 55,000 is spread between 3 departments. So that's why it's 117.
Thank you.
Tell me again what page, I lost track of what you said.
Page 116.
Okay, thank you.
Of the video.
Ugh,
I know.
old lady eyes.
I'm sorry, it is fine.
No, I'm just teasing. I'm being self-deprecating.
And actually, this is really on this bigger size paper, but this is how it printed.
Yeah, no, it's fine, I'm just teasing.
So looking at 2022, of course, sidewalk and ADA is always something that we yearly budget for. The next one, the design and engineering for the Public Works building, quite honestly, I think that's something we're going to do anyway. I don't want to sound flippant, but I think that's something we're going to do anyway that we would appropriate from reserves to complete. Also, the flat grant safety study, I would have to get some more information. I don't know that that's really gonna be in 2022, isn't that been?
The flat grant? The flat grant, we've been paying 80 per year, and I think this was the 3rd year, or we have one more. I think we just paid the 3rd year, and so we don't have anything until construction.
All right, so it shouldn't be in 2020, it shouldn't be on here.
For the CIP, it's just in case of construction where they go, and then we
Okay.
have a percentage of that we pay on it.
All right, so then moving down, then the additional campground utility sites, again, I believe that would be an appropriation from reserves.
So I misunderstood maybe, did the cemetery?
Yes, and that is
So is that already funded, or?
It is not, it is
Okay.
not. So that, honestly, with the 80, I was thinking the columbarium and the ground penetrating radar, and that
To
would
our
be
cemetery
$70,000 there.
That'd be perfect. I'd run.
Other than I would like to see ADA ramp repairs. We've had
Yes.
Nick Woodard come here before I was sitting on council, but came and talked about the importance of accessibility in our town.
We're
So-
just kind of waiting to do anyway.
Yeah. So between those two, those 3 things.
I'm sorry, we do have the vacancies, available full-time positions, corrections officer, 1, the other one has been, there were 2 previously, the other one has been taken out of the budget. Police dispatcher, water, that's, water wastewater operator, and again, enterprise fund, finance director, executive assistant at the harbor, and deputy city clerk are the full-time ones.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. That's okay, no, having immediate answers is helpful. So I think with that 80, we're talking about the cemetery items, and then between that and ADA ramp repairs, I don't know how that can be.
So
Go ahead.
is you've lumped sidewalk and ADA ramp repairs. Is that all ADA, or is that just some regular sidewalk maintenance there?
That's the 75,000 that's in there per year. We've been putting that in per year for, mainly we try to do what would help the handicap access the best. So
Okay,
some of it's been going to ramps, some of it's in a project that not only does ramps, but it takes care of some of the bad cracks in the sidewalks that they're tripping in or catching wheels in.
And so some of that already funded within your enterprise fund?
In the general fund, and we're verifying that, but we're pretty sure that we have that in the operational budget. We'll verify that.
Okay.
So then, if that's the case, the 2 cemetery items would fit nicely with this. That's $70,000.
I agree. I think we've seen around the country, it is important to know where people are buried, and with that ground penetrating radar, it might have a lot of closure for families and, you know, just be the right thing to do. To make sure we know what's out there, who's out there.
We're gonna look also to make sure and get back to you on the sidewalk and ADA, just to see. I thought it was in, we'll have to verify that.
Any other comments or? Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, just a little bit on the columbarium. Part of that expense is gonna determine on what size,
True.
because I know that the research that we've done, 48 niche columbarium is less than $10,000. And so part of the, you know, it's gonna depend on how big you wanna go, and then what the shipping is. But with the combined with the 3 cemeteries that are all looking at doing the same thing, you know, we may be able to work something on the shipping and make it less, and we may not need 35,000
That's a good point.
for that. So we may have more for
Move around.
move around.
Yep, that's a very good point. Any other final questions, comments? Great work. I know department heads have been working very hard to make sure they're putting their best product forward. I know Sam, we really appreciate your hard work and the hard work of the city manager and assistant city manager. And we've had lots of public comments, which is also very helpful. And I know council's been digging through the numbers, so thank you to everyone. It's a great product. And with that, I will adjourn the work session.